that was our intention as well.
I had my granddaughter's choral concert at PHS, Jeff. One of the best choral concerts I've ever heard. Yes. It's like if anybody needed entertainment for the evening, they should have
I said, oh, you're fancy, you brought a laptop.
Wow.
I love this thing.
They did Somebody to Love by Queen as their finale. It looks like it's 4:30. I'll call the meeting of the Governance Strategy and City Operations meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Counselor Armstrong?
Here.
Counselor McFarland?
I'm here.
Mayor Reed?
Present.
Counselor Kelly?
Here.
Counselor Gibbs?
Here.
Counselor Ensel?
Here.
Counselor Moore?
Here.
Well, as I had said last week at the meeting, I kind of gave the Community Development Office some advance notice of the kind of some of the updates we wanted, and Patrick contributed his ideas. So, you know, I know it's a pretty broad subject, but number one is the latest DRI news. I just, you know, kind of wanted to provide this time for the news media and anybody tuning in to the meeting to hear the latest. And so take it away, Matt.
Especially on like the non-Durkee Street ones that we don't hear as much about too, I would like that update.
Yeah, okay, I'll start with Dock Street. Dock Street, the first half of that project is complete, the highest and best use study. We're working on the other half, which is the match for the destruction or demolition of the MLD buildings. We just got the pre-demo asbestos survey back from KAS. They actually found less than, at least I was expecting them to, so we're gonna strategize about how best to knock down as many buildings as possible with the grant funding that we have. The downtown grant program, again, the council originally awarded 9 properties, money out of that fund. There's one project currently out for bid. 2 projects should be out to bid shortly. 5 more are in various stages of completing the necessary environmental and historical testing.
Could you
One-
clarify what project that was again?
Which one?
The one you just mentioned?
He's talking DGP, so this is the 1 million for
For the
private landowners
Yeah, this is
to.
the-
grant,
million for
that's
the-
what I just wanted to clarify,
Sure.
thank you.
And then one of the awardees has dropped out of the program because of financing issues.
Okay,
The streetscape and riverfront access. Saratoga hosted a public workshop on May 13th to go over concept for the arts park, the river walk, and the different streetscape
can I interrupt
options.
you?
Yeah.
So in terms of the streetscape, they got some feedback, and they're
Mhm.
working with the feedback then that the public provided.
Yeah.
And when are they looking to have their final design ready?
Well, the arts park is, we have a call scheduled next week with DOS. They wanna get moving on that as quickly as possible because that can move forward in isolation from the remainder of the
Okay.
projects, the river walk,
Okay.
the Bridge Street, the Durkee Street improvements,
So-
they're all dependent upon the schedule for the Durkee development.
Okay,
Now, back to the DGP, you said one project dropped out. How much was that project funded?
I don't have that figure, but somewhere between 50 and 100, I think.
And what happens to that money? Can it be allocated to other ones that weren't approved, or?
That would be a council decision, so that's something we should talk about at some point.
well, I like that idea,
Mhm.
okay. Why don't I say, what's the name of that one again?
The downtown grant program?
Program reallocation.
Now, you said 5 were going forward. If I remember correctly, the council approved 9 projects to go forward on the DGP. So are any other in danger of not going forward?
No, all the other ones, you know, at various rates, but the other 8 are moving forward.
Okay. And back to the Dock Street, you said there was the best use analysis or report. Can you send me a copy of that?
Yeah.
Well, why don't you send both of us a copy?
Perfect.
Okay.
And that was done by what, Crane and Associates or something like that?
Yeah, Crane Associates. All right, Saratoga's also been involved in weekly coordination meeting calls that we've been having between themselves, city staff, and prime companies in Guelph and Whitenburg to make sure that the streetscape, the riverfront, the Durkee projects are all moving forward more or less in concert with each other.
What is the, so what's the overall view of the streetscape and riverfront? Obviously, there's the riverfront. What is involved in the streetscapes other than the arts park?
Right now, the only concrete plans we have are for the changes to Durkee Street and for some minor changes to Bridge Street.
Are those gonna include like improving sidewalks or sidewalk repair?
Most likely, yes. And the reason that we've limited it to that for the time being is, of course, there's a limited amount of money. We know that we need those improvements to make the parking math work. So before we spend an inordinate amount of time looking at other streets, we want to make sure that the design and the construction money is going to be available for those streets before we look at others.
Okay.
For the marketing, signage, and branding project, on May 29th, Boyer Benner Group and Finch Network released an online survey relating to their marketing efforts. Provides an opportunity to present preliminary design concepts for special event and downtown banners, the ones that hang from the light poles, as well as offers the chance for some feedback from various marketing elements. As of yesterday afternoon, they had 141 responses, and the feedback had been very consistent. Survey will stay up until Wednesday the 12th, so everybody has a chance to participate, and the links to the survey can be found on the city's Facebook page and the city website.
Okay.
For the Durkee Street development, on the 23rd of May, Prime Companies presented their preliminary site plan to the Common Council. They listened to the feedback they got from the councilors and some of the members of the public. The big difference is, as you all know, they changed the layout of the buildings. One of them is now a U rather than an L. They moved them off of the street a little bit to allow for more green space and more parking options closer to Durkee and Bridge Streets. They added quite a bit of parking, including the underground garage under both of the buildings now, rather than just the one that was originally planned. They increased a little bit of green space. Adjustments to the residential amenities. There was the pool and the other outdoor areas that were originally front and center on the boardwalk, and moved them into a less conspicuous space. Durkee Street, it is planned now to turn that into a one-way street heading north to the center of town. And it also included the relocation of the farmer's market, which was discussed with the council and the farmer's market leadership. So Prime Companies in the city are working together to accomplish that relocation as quickly as possible.
And then they came before the planning board a week ago?
Yeah, they went before the planning board simply for the planning board to declare its intention to be lead agency for the secret review for the Durkee project. And there were some very helpful public comments.
Yes.
But Durkee going one way, that's a decision by the city that was just put
That
on
is a
their
city decision.
map of
That's
that. This is
correct.
the way we think that you can get the most parking out of this area.
Right, and,
But that decision hasn't been made by the council, and it's not part of the planning board's purview right now, right?
No, that would
none
be
of the
in-
parking,
That's a council decision.
Yeah.
none of the parking is.
Yeah,
part of the planning
generally, if
board's
the council
purview.
is taking an action on behalf of the city, they can ask the planning board for a consultative opinion, but they do not need to seek their approval.
But now concerning the plan, as in any of the plans, I mean, I know we have engineers that are lined up to work on the proposed Glens Falls National, or Arnie Pavone Plaza, but the same would be true of designing this for a one-way street with some diagonal parking and some parallel parking. We would need
Oh,
an
yeah, certainly.
engineering
That would be,
study.
Professional engineering
Yes, okay,
drawings and expertise sought for that.
okay, good. Anything else?
Yeah, I wanna go back to the branding and marketing. So what is entailed in all of that? Like, what's the purpose of that?
So it's trying to find a way to tie all the city's strategic assets together into one marketing campaign and how best to, what that campaign is gonna look like. So the one thing they're starting out with, because it's something that's simple, it's something that can be accomplished soon, so people see some progress with the DRI, are seasonal banners or event banners that can hang from all the light poles downtown. So that's one aspect of it. They're looking at a few other things right now, but the banner idea, that's the one that's gone the farthest in the process.
Matt, one of the things that came
Take the
out,
survey.
one of the things that came out, and Jeff, remember, last night at the livable community, was the kiosk down here, how it's outdated and not,
Well, that'll
Really,
move anyway, right?
um,
You're talking about the,
On
On
Durkee,
the-
there's
on
one on
Durkee
Verandy
and-
you're
Park.
talking about the
Bridge.
stainless steel ones with the
Yeah.
LCD
I
screens?
believe
Yeah.
the grant for that is up and we can remove
and they
them
said
now.
that there was, a member of the committee said that there were some visitors from our neighbors to the north were looking at it, kind of wondering what to do, where to go, and so I'm just wondering if that's something that we might, someone had passed around an idea to me a year or so ago that if we could have some kind of maybe electronic board or something, some kind, similar to what they have actually on the college center, on on Plattsburgh State's campus, that
Ooh.
could be updated and so on. Not necessarily at that
I'm not
location,
in
but,
favor.
but.
How about an app?
Well, that's
You know, let's
actually
just
one
have
of the
an
things
app.
they're looking at.
But just
rather than
something
having a central
to
location
update.
that you have to be present for, an online interactive wayfinding map that you can see on your cell phone and use as you're walking around town.
Right,
Yeah.
there's benefit to that, right?
Yeah.
Yep, and as far as the
Like Google
existing
goggles.
LCD screens, as part of the streetscape project, I'd like to see if we can get funding to get those removed, since they don't serve any purpose currently.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna try to expedite this meeting, because I believe we may just have a short time left. So, any other questions about the latest DRI news? Any further comments from you, Director Miller? I'm just gonna ask that you post whatever report you prepared on the website, please, all right? So now to community engagement. I just wanted to get a sense of how Scott Matthews is doing. Really appreciate your efforts. I just worked with him today on a press release I'm really happy about. But anyway, how are the season's events going? And I guess,
Yeah, so, and I'll try to make it brief too, so I don't
Okay.
talk all the time. Hunger Games are happening this weekend, and that'll be starting at noon till like 4:30. And so we're encouraging anybody that shows up to bring food items to donate to local charities. And then Mayor's Cup and 4th of July, we just had the press conference last week, and it's gonna be happening from July 4th through July 7th. Skippy, Scott Bray and I have been working closely together to set the schedule with Sunrise Rotary and Joanne
that's great.
over there.
So it's a real coordination between volunteer groups and staff.
Yeah.
Good.
Yep. Yeah, exactly.
And Mayor's Cup is starting on the same day, or are starting on the 4th of July this
On the
year?
4th of July.
Yeah, because of the dates, they're kind of happening all at the same
It
time.
usually does.
Um,
But I'm really happy about the Glengarry boys.
Yeah, yes.
It's a great group.
What
Yeah,
are,
no,
what are
it's-
the Glengarry boys?
They're an Irish
Irish
rock band.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. And then same thing with the Battle of Plattsburgh, we've been having some initial meetings with them. And that's gonna be from September 12th to 15th. And we have another meeting set up next week. Just starting to work on the schedule and trying to get some publicity out there from it, about it. And I just sent a release out this morning, just requesting for volunteers to be part of the efforts in planning it. And then with the community engagement, particularly around the DRI, it's been focused on press releases and media inquiries, trying to get information out there. One of the things that you were wondering about last week was the website as well.
Mhm.
And I know Ethan's worked great at it this past week on making a lot of changes.
Yes.
And I know you had mentioned adding some lines about particular links, so we knew what that link was, and he made a lot of those changes today.
Oh, good. Good.
Um,
Yeah, I noticed some, holdovers from when other counselors were on particular committees, they're listed, like Josh is listed on the governance and strategy committee, and there are just little tweaky things like that.
Just updating.
Yeah,
Yes.
and if you see them, please send them
Let
my
you
way.
know?
Yeah, let me
Okay.
know. I'm hoping to make more changes to it. One of the things that's on the top of my list is updating the events sections of the website. So, if you do see any of those suggested changes, please send them my way too.
Well, and just before I forget about it, the Climate Smart Community Coalition Group suggested that we dedicate a section of the website to the task force and any news that coalition brings as well.
And then just beyond the DRI too, this past weekend we actually had a volunteer day at the football fields, which close to 20 individuals showed up, mainly from the leagues. Councilor Kelly was there as well. So it was a nice kind of a community engagement activity too, and did a lot of work at the football fields.
What was that? What was the part of it?
It was at the ball fields. We were laying down the infield dirt.
Oh, okay.
Lefty
and
Wilson.
fixing some of the water holes that were there.
Thank you, Scott.
Yep.
So Rex Complex,
Yeah, I wasn't sure what specifically you
just,
were.
any updates about how the beach opening's doing, the marina,
So the beach opening, as of right now, the beach is about 3 feet wide.
Yeah.
The water on the lake is slowly going down.
Yeah, it's 3 feet wider than last I saw it.
Yeah, I was up there yesterday. Based on the weather forecast, we're probably looking at an opening sometime between June 20th and June 30th. If we do get a significant additional amount of rain, it's possible that the opening could be delayed until July.
Do we need actual beach space to open the beach area? I'm like, there's the cabana bar and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
a question of,
people can just look at the lake instead of go in it.
sure, the vendors that we have, they are free to operate from Memorial Day onward. At the front gate of the beach, we allow for walk-ins and pedestrians to go in, but we keep the front gate closed. We don't want to give the impression that the beach is open, especially for swimming, because of the liability that comes along with that to the crews of the city. The crate gate is usually left open and people can come and go there as they please, but we could open. It's a question of, do we charge full price? How do we staff the beach? Because right now, we only have 3 lifeguards through the civil service process. We've got 5 more in the civil service process, which should give us enough for the year. We're having trouble finding a beach manager, so we're working with civil service on that.
I thought we had a beach manager.
We have an interim beach manager, Brian Bissonette
Right.
is assisting, but the understanding with him has always been that he will help us get the beach up and running, but once the beach opens for the
Okay.
year, he has other things that he does during the summer. So.
All right, good.
What are the qualifications for a beach manager? What are you looking for?
You need somebody with at least a year's worth of business, park, or public administration with at least 6 months in a supervisory capacity.
It's not too
Which
much.
is-
though.
More difficult than you would expect to find.
Really? And you said any of the businesses over there can open since Memorial Day, which is now past.
Mhm.
Have any opened already?
I don't believe any of them have opened. I believe the Party Factory is hoping to open this weekend.
And
Isn't the cabana open?
I haven't seen them open.
I understood they haven't because they've been complaining that people aren't allowed past the gate.
Mm.
What would be is there a legal problem with having a beach area open but having signs that there's no swimming?
That's the problem, is we have a beach that's down at the health department, so we need, as long as there was an assurance, a reasonable assurance that people weren't entering the water, I don't think there's any other legal prohibition. But that's a logistical problem that we can't just ignore, it has to be a way to
Yeah.
resolve that.
The way of preventing people from diving in, right?
And I'm curious about the beach safety plan. Did we get an extended closing date? Because I remember last year we had concerns that maybe we had to close too early. I believe
Yeah,
we
they
closed at
extended
Labor Day.
the opening date and the closing date. Doing that doesn't obligate us to be open during those days, but it does give us flexibility, so that was included in this year's plan.
Are there any vendor locations at the beach that still need to be rented out?
No, we got a full house this year.
Okay.
Okay, I'd like to move on then, if no other questions. Okay, Saranac River Trail update. I guess we made some assumptions about who might be able to convey that information and, but.
Yeah, there's not much of an update. We're still waiting on DEC approval of the plans for the bridges. I did receive an email from NICEAG's contractor about a month back saying that it was still in process, but their revegetation plan for the banks along the MGP site has not yet been approved, and the DEC has also not approved our plans as well. Although we have completed one part of the plan, which was the purchase of some NICEAG property on this side of the river. That has now been completed and closed, so that when we do get DEC approval, it can move forward without that hindrance.
So right now, phase 2, the only thing holding that up is DEC approval of our bridge plans?
Yes.
And has DEC given any indication of how long that will be?
Not in some time.
And if they do give approval of the bridge plans, what's the next step and what kind of timeline would we be looking at from there?
For that, I would need to speak to DPW, because they've been working with it as well, but I haven't consulted Mike and Mike.
Okay.
Okay. All right, any further questions or comments there? All right, and we're looking at appointments to the Plattsburgh Sustainability Task Force, which will be on our agenda. As you recall, a week or so ago, you had approved who would comprise this task force, and we were able to find appointments to hand down. And finally, before we get to the next part of our agenda, just wondered if there was any update from Chamberlain Marks regarding OpenGov.
Had some email correspondence this week with the rep,
David.
and he's gonna send me some references to check on who's using the budgeting process and the payroll data collection process.
Okay.
I wanna talk to, I think it's the city of Saratoga. I'm not sure if it's a different Saratoga, if there might be a village or a city.
No, I think there's just a city.
Okay, one
Saratoga
of them signed up
Springs.
for it and had significant difficulties with OpenGov because of account mapping issues, so I wanted to talk to that.
Okay, thank you for doing that.
So I heard from Dave today, and he's gonna give me the references, and I also heard about the city of Saratoga today too.
Very good.
So,
As these things develop, as you find things out, would you mind, going
yeah,
through the
send it right to
mayor?
so
Going through the mayor so that we can know?
Yep.
All right, thank you.
Is it definitely the city, Richard, or not the county, or?
I'll find out. It was
Because
Saratoga
there's no
in general.
village or that I know of, it's just city and county.
Yeah. Apparently there was some pretty significant account mapping issues. And what the preliminary information is, it's like if you map one way and then you change accounts and munis, you have a real problem going forward to refigure things. And if munis doesn't have it and OpenGov wants it, then someone's gotta feed it, which isn't anything else than what I've already, figured out about this process. I just wanna see how much difficulty we actually have.
All right, and I believe at this point, the topic under discussion is whether or not there might be a recommendation for inclusion of this software in the 2020 budget, right? That's what we're looking at.
Chamberlain is also researching an advertised product from Munis called Socrata.
I had done that research, so if you wanna correspond with me about it, I can tell you not only what I learned, but what the OpenGov reps said about that, what they know about it, okay? All right. So, thank you,
Michelle,
Chamberlain Marks.
Before we move on, I just have a question on number 5. Is that all of the positions on the
Yep.
Sustainability Committee?
Right, and what I think I'll try to explain later is that there will be a relationship between this city task force and a coalition, the Climate Smart Communities Coalition, comprised of local environmental groups. And they will be doing a certain portion of the work and coordinate with the city. And as the mayor has said, there will be cross-pollination between the work of those groups. Okay, so items to be brought forward from the departments to be approved by the committee and recommended to the council. Number 1, request from Chief Ritter for a police department employee to attend the police mental health new instructor training from June 7th to 19th, 2019 in Rochester, New York. The total cost will not exceed $658.75 and will be expensed out of the asset forfeiture fund.
So moved to move it forward.
All right, second? I'll second.
Oh, you seconded it, didn't you?
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, and old business, anybody have any old business that they can think of related to our committee?
I did mention that a constituent had brought up, it came up a couple times, never officially in the committee, of pushing back council meetings an hour. I did get a chance to
Pushing
speak-
back or forward?
Pushing back, starting at 6:30. Committee meetings would be at 5:30.
Okay.
Remember that? I brought it up in new
Yes, you
business a
did,
couple
but I
times.
just would consider that to be pushing it forward, because we meet at 5:30 and we push it forward to 6:30.
Interesting.
Okay.
Well, either way,
Semantics.
Anyway.
it causes a big problem apparently with city employees. They usually get out at 4, staying at council meetings makes them stay quite a bit late with labor issues and stuff like that. It doesn't look like it's a starter. If we want to bring it up, I suggest it probably be brought up at the next organizational meeting.
Mm-hmm, okay. New business. I actually have something that I forgot to ask you about. I know you're considering consolidated funding applications at this point. I know that we hired the Finch Network to also assist with that, I believe. Okay. And I think it was Vincent, Eva, and I listened to a webinar today to consider what kind of climate smart community grants we might be eligible for. And I'd be happy to meet with Vincent and Eva to kind of discuss that within the context of, the first steps for our task force. And if we can arrange that for next week, I'd appreciate it.
Maybe the week after.
I'll be gone.
Oh, that's right. We talked about that.
Just like
And we'll
to
figure it
kind of debrief about the webinar. But anything you want to say about your search for grant possibilities at this point for the CFA process?
Actually Amy is finishing up one for the master planning grant for the Harborside area.
Good.
We're looking at 1 or 2 other options, but with the current grant load that the city has, the number of funders that we can go to is limited, so.
Right. Well, okay. I understand that. You have to think about administration. Is that what you're thinking?
Well, it's administration, but it's also if the municipality has 1 or 2 outstanding grants with a particular agency who is looking to fund additional projects, they're less likely to fund
Right.
it, so it's,
I get it.
yeah.
Okay. All right, any questions about that? All right, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you.
Let's then begin the work session for tonight's council meeting. You have the agenda in front of you. Any member of the public can get a copy of the agenda out front. It's a relatively short
Thank you,
agenda
Matt.
tonight. We can certainly discuss the travel request, but I think that's been thoroughly treated. You can offer any reports, and if you feel there's the need to go into an executive session, we could do that as well.
I'll make a motion to go into an executive session and talk about current litigation between the town and the city concerning Falcon Seaboard.
Moved by Councilor McFarland, second by Councilor Gibbs. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed. No restricted covenants in here, no?
Please, it's on the- and then- But, failing agent.
I wasn't able to say all
supposed to do this video.
Yeah, I'm gonna say that, yeah.
I have not really been in my office.
You always have that,
Not been home until like.
washed out
9
look.
o'clock
I've been on the
last
course.
night.
It's taking,
Then I had
it's
to-
taking its toll on you.
No one, my first name, no one likes my first name, it's my last name.
So I have an executive assistant, but she's.
That's,
I'm
going to go mess with your system, because.
You know,
Oh, okay.
she like, helps me make sure that everything.
That's what I'll put on.
And meds and stuff like.
We don't
those
even
are,
check.
like,
We have to, you can't see, if you don't put it up.
everything
I
that
don't,
we
I don't want
need,
to
so,
use.
like, she's not answering.
I just wanna make sure this is the right
my
speed.
We've actually been talking about
So, Rich.
the necessity of hiring
Why?
another person.
I just want-
Because I don't, I like don't have, I can't do all of the administrative stuff. There's things that I can definitely focus on. I had, mostly with interns for 2 years. They were, I had an intern almost full time. And then we hired a part-timer and then he came on full-time.
Oh, okay. So it's on, that's it?
So, let me understand. Just, if he just happened. But, yeah, that's good. Whatever. Yeah, yeah, honestly. Oh, good.
So I did almost always have another person in the office and then sometimes two.
Yeah, I just didn't want to
Wait,
put,
we have like
like,
computers
you
going.
know, when it's actually.
Yeah, we relied on.
Or, yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And that's, so just hit stop.
No. Was my intern for 2 years and then.
Yeah. Oh, minimize the screen.
Was here for a little while and then for DRI and now she's
Yeah.
my old job.
It caught me on the right.
Another full-time.
That's how you enjoy your Jersey. You're just like me. That's the problem. Love rounds. Good job.
So we were Glens Falls
Even the
for
payroll.
the first term.
Wow.
And then now we're
fast.
associate director for the second term, so.
You're gonna take it downstairs and get rid of it.
Ran everything out one
gosh.
we, Plattsburgh really grew into being a more, and also we were, this is more Democrat county and that was part of the reason I think it was a little quieter there. But it has gotten a lot busier. Yeah, we're looking for more. Yeah. Oh my gosh. And you never do. Farm it out to other people. Half down. So Vincent.
Yeah, that's what
Your hair feels very chubby.
I mean, I guess, maybe it's because it's Ethan Evo, maybe that's.
No, I don't think that that's.
Maybe it's my last name, it could be worse. Well, it's just, it's like we have Cindy, but like sometimes they call him Scott, and it's like, wait, well, not this Scott, this, it's just, I don't get like it's Cindy, even though I don't know, that likes to go along. Or I just want to call him Scott. But, so I flip it back and forth, so sometimes it's both,
wouldn't even know. I don't have an office anymore as far as I'm concerned. I can never do. I haven't been in all week. Yeah, I think when I. It's just hard. There's so many people who are like, please come to this meeting, please be part of this work group, please do all of these things, and then I'm like, first of all, I don't know why you want me there because like I haven't done anything yet. Like I haven't accomplished anything, so like I don't know why you invite me, but it's a lot of people. Number two, I'm only one person. I'm actually trying to close down now, whereas like when I started, I was still like clawing my way back into. It wasn't hard, but I was getting back into everything. Now it's just.
Well, you gotta have time to work on some of this stuff too.
Well, that's the big problem right now. You know, a lot of the IDA stuff gets done by the attorneys. It's the FaceTime people and phone calls and like the projects that are more time consuming. I don't try to take the place of attorneys. I'm just like, this is what they want. Like, make it happen or tell me you can't happen or give me suggestions of how to do it. So.
Who has the first name?
Yeah.
I thought, I was like, no. The climate action trip though, I do have that. I already put the climate action in the, on the website. So what they were talking about, is that what we're.
Climate
Yeah.
action.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm gonna look at energy communities in the county and it's like
On the front page.
right now because I don't do that. That's the kind of stuff that I usually could use another person to do.
It's on the
It's like
homepage.
stuff that I.
You can go, there's a tab right there. Yeah, like, really, you know. So I just wanted to, I said that, so they, oh, I'll go.
I think it was like 3 months ago that I would never guess that you just throw up the bottom of the priority pile.
Yeah.
Hey, we don't believe we
I
have.
was on my desk, I was like, oh, God, forgot about that. It was-
I made a little button.
The vast majority of issues like that though, either are a long-term resolution or they don't actually require a resolution. So it just sort of is what it is.
Oh, let's change this.
To do, not to do, too hard to do.
Too hard.
That's what you buy all of a sudden.
It's like,
That one
kind
was
of what I did.
like a trash can.
I have to like just keep things in my piles and then like one day I'll be like, I don't need these piles anymore and I'll just literally put dates on it. And like, I can usually guess where things are if I need to revisit them.
That came from, no, this is a clean path. What'd you do?
Yeah.
Set a pile on the floor. Picked it up and dumped it because we had a bankers meeting and needed a place to work and look at the computer screen, so. But the longer it lays, the less I have to deal with it.
Exactly. That's my perspective.
Eventually it'll biodegrade, you would.
It can't be that important.
They're worried about mice now, it's just like, let them sign off, it's not, you know, the paper will be on set.
I swear, it might say all the financial documents.
It's gotta be.
So my boss walked into my office, it was like a week and a half ago, and he's like, do you have that thing that we were talking about like 3 months ago? He's like, I'm sure I give it back to you. I said, I stayed there, and meanwhile, he always makes fun of me because it's Mike Servo, so it's like all my stuff's all over the place. And he's like, I thought mine was messy, and like, this is ridiculous. He walks in, he asks for his thing, he's like, well, okay, like, come find me when you get it. And I was like, wait a second, and I like lifted up 3 staple packs of paper under the second pile in from the left and grabbed it for him, and he was like, I can't believe you just did that. I'm like, next time you pick it up my house.
Yeah, you go, as long as you know where things
I was like, it is kind of a system.
Right, and he even said, you know, that thing we were talking about, he didn't tell you what it was. It's like the guy under stress on the set.
No, he said what it was.
On, you know, something.
Grab the thing.
It's just not a sexy thing, like, do you wanna hear about the adults nursing home in Mars? Like, no. It's not sexy. I don't even know how it landed on my desk.
I know.
I imagine.
He's,
He's digging for details.
it's already his fault.
That's just for several days.
I was not afraid of that. I was not.
He was that way always. Has he always been like that?
Oh, I thought you were talking about the fact that
Yes.
people were.
No.
The IGA was part of it, but wasn't they?
No, Patrick.
As long as I know.
Yeah.
He likes to ask questions.
Talk.
He likes to talk.
Oh, I don't know about
Yeah, it's
that.
not so much the questions, that's.
I never talk.
He does like a good story. Just love the stories from the library.
That's right, you're on the library board.
Well, not on the board. Meetings.
That's what everyone's doing. I'm sure that's gonna catch on.
Patrick became our board. That's some of the projects.
I know.
He's making the finance committee because he was board member, the finance chair.
Trying not to be working in as being an expanded on break, so that's kind of cool.
Love the stories.
The Violet's home purchase and expansion. What else on the agenda? We have some more solar projects coming our way. We allegedly have a big solar and wind project.
It's a big swing
that we
vote
want
last year.
to
Oh, yeah.
But
It sounds like something
from
like,
so actually, the one in Sherbrooke was, that was Marble River, right? Well, they're all like in a piece though, I think. So I was on Jared Verizon, I worked for
Cookies are our county method.
we have Marble River.
Where
so
the
that's
revenue
the-
comes from.
Yeah.
It's money flowing into a fund.
Like, there's one that's allegedly gonna go up in, yeah, the so,
Do they
what are they called? Bull Run?
buy us a track for the revenue?
Yeah.
I'm gonna work on that tomorrow and send that to, I can send it to the mayor, not
Oh, is
send
it?
it to anybody else.
Okay.
Information out.
Cool. I didn't know it was
So I don't know why.
I don't know if it's, if that, because that one is,
Nobody's
very
interested.
interesting.
So,
It's just like something that they have to get nicer.
I'm gonna look at putting together
If it's the same.
revenues and expenses for,
And this is, well, the shop, so they're supposed to.
Jim Craig Beach, grant,
I think that's Bull Run, because they need the nicer contract to be able to build.
allocate the overhead section.
Yeah, so that's like an annual
They're
cycle.
gonna have to, if they want
So,
the beach to open next year, they're gonna have to
Yeah.
increase the service.
Yes.
obviously, it was this guy.
And also get rid of the
Yeah.
retaining wall
Big.
and put more sand.
Oh, yeah.
As the water level
Yeah.
continues to stay high, it's like, we just don't have that beach to work with.
Oh, yeah.
That's
Then I looked on the block, I was just trying to figure out.
Yeah, it's
Not sure that
it's a good way to utilize that kind of space.
for them.
Again, they're still pretty.
Yeah, it's a similar thing, 'cause
It was
We
absolutely
have
true.
a boardwalk, or like,
Yeah, but I think
They got
they have like a
concrete.
yeah, they have like a concrete
It is
boardwalk.
what it
they have
is.
the same thing.
Yeah. Well, theirs is more like a big staircase. Like there's like, I don't know if it's an actual retaining wall. Green now. What it is, but it is a little higher.
There's ADA access, there's a couple of those
Like
little
dormers.
I don't know, there's a couple of those, concrete stairwells, like getting into a public pool.
The, are you talking about special
Yeah.
district taxes? Yeah, so everyone
Well, I thought that
has
was
to
the old one,
pay
and I
special
Well, Zondervan is,
taxes.
the city beach had to be closed because of the water quality, but the state beach didn't. Side of the beach, it's like,
I don't
no,
know.
the water's different
My
right
brother's
here.
got she was, when she was her age, she was doing the same thing, and she's,
All the bad
Yeah,
stuff
you,
is this way.
oh, like for the property owners?
Yeah.
Must be using a different
I
standard.
wonder.
Your skin doesn't start to swell.
As long as it's like legal.
Oh, no,
What's the rest of that,
Why not? I'm taxed on the
my
baseball.
niece is got a little bit, that's her client.
So anyway, Monahan's building out there,
Yes.
as soon as they
It had an
get
explosion,
the
it had a
permits
meltdown.
issued.
Meltdown, yeah.
I don't know.
Fukushima was the same way, it was meltdowns, not explosions. That's why Chernobyl released about 5 times more radioactivity.
Whatever, the worst part about this is like, you know, everyone's doing things nowadays, and I'm just like, why are we uptown?
There were,
Yeah.
I wanna say,
Oh, and to it.
reactors. So, yeah, one of them actually was active until about a year or two ago when they shut it down because electric
They-
weren't justifying the cost of running the plant anymore.
So,
So it's
I
just
don't
there.
know what,
There's a couple.
A monument to human achievement.
I like the part in that show where the steel cover for all the
Yeah,
control
that's
rods,
true.
sort of popping up.
some of the agencies switched solely to electronic.
Guy looks at it,
Some of
like,
them
oh.
made you switch to like a web form, which I hated.
Of course, at the
Most
very
of them
end, you
just
got
had
one
congressional
mission still
liaison
buried at
inboxes.
the bottom of it.
So,
I think it was that
we
guy
were,
watching the
we
rock
trans,
fall along.
the Plattsburgh office, we were like doing
infrastructure,
And then we
top
need
gets
to
around the
figure
plant.
out what it takes.
That was the fastest.
Try
Crane
to-
operators lowering steel,
Yeah.
big concrete blocks,
But
lead line
the
cabins, so they
state
couldn't see what they were doing, and they had
the
the
only
radio instructions via wires from servers a couple miles away with telescopes.
or nonprofits. So, I'm not trying, I don't wanna loosen regulations, and it's a non-starter.
Yeah, no, actually, like, I'm sitting here doing that. Actually, you can't even see the shop, so I guess.
Big arch. That's something.
So we have a few minutes, if anybody needs to take a few minutes.
We gotta return first. So let them go.
Lower down, robotics.
Wait.
I guess we just have to return from, we're returning from executive session, discussing litigation annexation and litigation with the
Oh,
town
I'm
of
sorry,
Plattsburgh.
Mason.
No decisions were made during the executive session. So if you'd like to take a short few-minute recess, we can begin our council meeting in a few minutes.
Colin, are you gonna, make a small statement about the anniversary of D-Day today?
About the which?
Anniversary of D-Day?
Of what?
D-Day?
Well, I was gonna make an announcement about the firefighters memorial. Anniversary of D-Day is an appropriate one too.
Maybe worth a quick snippet.
Sure, that's a good idea, thanks.
Why are we standing?
Pledge.
Well, we're on a break.
It's 5:30.
I like your fire today, Counselor Moore. You were all kinds of fired up. I like it.
Tomorrow morning, you just want me to push that to next week?
I won't be here next week.
Okay.
Tomorrow morning, I'll be around. We'll do an informal poll on our way out.
Okay.
And no two councils will be here.
Okay. And then, as far as scheduling, before you go, let me know when you guys are available tomorrow morning.
Well, it's gonna be, it would be at 10.
That's what
Yeah,
I
that's
said.
it.
Finally have some room. It's the wall for council meetings.
Go home and watch the Bruins and the Blues
Yep.
tonight.
Who's gonna win?
Got myself caught up.
That's getting
I got one
Really
Red
close.
Bull.
there's some black and blues.
Who's gonna win?
Bruins.
Think so?
Root for the Bruins.
It's so strange. All my life I've been a Yankees and Giants fan, but a Bruins is something. And
They're good teams.
I lived under the Sitco sign in graduate school in Kenmore Square. And being a Yankee fan, that wasn't.
A couple, well, last game, the Blues kicked out the defenseman.
Well, actually, what it was the shot hit his stick and came up in the puck.
Yeah, it got hit by the puck. To me, it looked like it was deliberate. Like the guy,
But it was the puck hit Chara's stick and came up. And hit
oh,
his stick.
okay. I didn't see that.
It's not like he
Yeah.
shot deliberately. It hit his stick and deflected up.
My wife is a big Blues fan. And I ain't smart. She said that. She felt like they sent that guy, he was like a third stringer. They sent him in to hurt Charlie. Cause,
Yep,
you
that's what the
know,
third stringers do. Yep, they're dispensable.
yeah.
Get in there, scuffle up, come out.
They get hurt, fine. She
That's right.
penalized at this late in the season. Okay.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, I'll take 1 or 2 for myself, that's all. It's north of Hyde Park, East Kingdom. On a day like today? Guy who likes to ride bikes, he had done the same thing, but this is
That's another point that's favored. We could get a couple 40s and go to McDonald's.
That's what it does, it's how the restaurant costs now.
Wow.
Just one restaurant,
Dodge the seagulls.
I have a picture of my kids too.
Yeah, no, we just had the same. Does Tony know that you're
Oh my God, I can't stop yawning.
I was thinking,
Yawning.
Mickey's is where I show all the time. This is point to
It is, but we're missing Rochelle.
Rochelle's right there.
Oh, yeah, she's right there.
Rochelle, we have business today.
I pledge allegiance.
Begin our council meeting for this evening with the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Mayor Reed,
Present.
Counselor Armstrong,
Here.
Counselor Kelly,
Here.
Counselor Gibbs,
Here.
Counselor Renzel,
Here.
Counselor McFarland,
Present.
Counselor Moore,
Here.
Just a couple of announcements. First of all, we're all memorializing, was it the 60th anniversary of D-Day, which,
75th.
75th anniversary of D-Day, which I know that, any of you who follow the honor flight, there's been people who've been sent on the honor flight who were serving at that time and in those proceedings that I had a chance to meet over the last year. This region has had a tradition of participating in, solid tradition of participating in military going right back even before the Declaration of Independence and the War of Independence, and has a connection with the military ever since then, now continued on through our reserves and that sort of stuff. And I also have a proclamation to read today. Whereas each year the professional firefighters of the city of Plattsburgh remember those who have passed and who once served the residents of the city. And whereas this past Sunday, June 2nd, they assembled for a memorial service for their 52 fallen comrades, 3 of which lost their lives in the line of duty. And whereas tributes were offered by Fire Chief Lawless and Assistant Emergency Service Director Kelly Donahue. And whereas the Plattsburgh Police Bagpipe Band played a moving rendition of Amazing Grace. And whereas each time there's a death of a resident in a house fire, the loss sears at the hearts of our firefighters. And but for each fallen firefighter, our professional firefighters have saved the lives of dozens more. Now therefore, I, Mayor of the City of Plattsburgh, New York, do proclaim this week to be Fallen Professional Firefighters Week in honor of the men and women who help keep our city safe. Thank you. Please continue.
Resolved that the minutes of the regular meeting of the Common Council held on May 30th, 2019 are approved and placed on file among the public records of the city clerk's office.
Moved by Councillor Ensel, second by Councillor Kelly. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed.
Resolved that the payrolls of the various departments of the city of Plattsburgh for the week ending June 5th, 2019 in the amount of $503,602.38 are authorized and allowed, and the mayor and the city clerk are hereby empowered and directed to sign warrants drawn on the city chamberlain for the payment thereof.
Moved by Councillor Kelly, second by Councillor Moore. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed. You have in your packet, your routine committee reports. Let's ask for any additional reports, beginning with governance strategy and city operations. Councillor Armstrong?
Yes, we had our meeting this evening at 4:30 and spoke to Director Miller, Scott Matthews, Community Outreach person, and it was a wonderful meeting, which is recorded on our video.
City Infrastructure, Councilor Moore.
I just wanna say smooth sailing on Upper Cornelia Street. And I noticed how good the striping looks. I can't wait till we get more of the striping in the city. It really defines the lanes and makes everything look pretty neat and organized, so. And just wanna compliment Public Works for the great job they did getting that done in a minimal amount of time with all the bad weather.
Mm-hmm.
We had
Absolutely.
a interview with, was it Le Journal Montreal, the major newspaper up there, admiring how good the roads in the city of Plattsburgh are compared to Montreal. So not always do we hear that, but I was very pleased to talk about some of our successes on Cornelia and Prospect and et cetera, and the good work that the DPW is doing in this new road repairing regimen.
What's next on the list, Mayor?
South Catherine.
It's the end of this month, that's right, that section of South Catherine that wasn't done from the Broad Street intersection right to the Perry Bridge.
Wow.
Oh, thank God.
Yep.
Good.
My axle function.
Finance and Budget, Councilor Kelly.
Today in my email, I received our year-to-date expenses and revenue report, and it looked pretty positive. We'll talk more about that at our meeting in 2 weeks.
I was
I think
gonna mention that too. I looked at that, again, versus the budget, the revenues are up and the expenditures are down. So
Yeah, that's what we want.
Agreed.
That was good. You guys got that also? Good.
And we'll be meeting Councilor Marks and Councilor Moore and yourself will be meeting tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
We'll talk about the budget a little bit more in detail.
Yes.
Public Safety, Councilor Gibbs.
A few updates. It seems as though Chief Ritter has made some headway, with possibly getting a nuisance animal control officer, so hopefully we'll have that taken care of by the end of the month. I'd like to recognize all the code enforcement reports we're getting, which is fantastic, because I emailed out. It's great that our city is trying to keep everything from looking bedraggled, things laying around by the side of the road, so that's being taken care of. And I also wanted to let everyone know that I've located about 5 or 6 municipalities that are pretty close to the same size as Plattsburgh. And I'm just doing my own research to see what their public safety looks like. You know, their fire department, their police departments, because I'd like to take a look at what we're doing and compare that to other municipalities, because we're looking at budget and costs and so on. So I'm gonna try and assemble that information and have it ready to share by the end of the month for our regular meeting.
Terrific. And you mentioned Joe's reports. Our building inspector also testified to your committee last night, the Livable Communities Committee, and I think that your group was very favorably impressed with the effort he's been putting together. Plattsburgh Public Library, Councilor Renzel.
No report at this time.
And MLD Board President, Councilor McFarland.
We had our board meeting last week. You should check it out on YouTube if you missed it. Other than that, I have no updates.
I'll give you a little bit of an update. I was speaking with MLD Department Head Tracy earlier today. We're making really good progress on our energy and economic resiliency plan. I was sharing with Councillor Armstrong that we'll be doing energy audits for our government buildings, including the library, on Tuesday. And also she solicited an expert to come in from the Adirondacks to help us with other various energy audits as well, and they're going to work collaboratively. We're continuing on the engineering work to remove all the transformers in Protection Avenue between Marion and Margaret Street. There's 3 transformers and 2 pods through there, if you recall, and they'll be relocating across Protection Avenue to where we already have 1 transformer. So we're modernizing that, and that will allow DPW to go in and do some really nice engineering and redoing of Protection Avenue, including some historic street lamps and that sort of stuff. That will be done over the next few months. And he's now asking us for input for where we would like 10 EV charging stations downtown. He's already received a couple of units, and he's ready to start installing them. So we're looking for suggestions of where we can locate them in prominent locations. Probably one right outside of City Hall, and send the message that we're 100% renewable energy community. But this will be part of the parking plan, and we'll incorporate these in the various off-street parking lots that we're currently forming. So if you have any input on that, let us know. We're making very good progress, and I think we'll even make more progress now that we formed the committee, and we'll be collaborating with the larger community-oriented committee. Are you heading the community one as well as?
No, we actually just transferred from being the named differently to this new designation with a new purpose, and we have yet to form our governing body.
Okay, and you'll be seeing later on the agenda the appointments, the formal appointments for the city committee, and there's overlap of those 7 appointments. 2 will actually be on the larger community group as well. I think that's all the reports. Any additional reports? Seeing none, resolved that the reports as listed are hereby ordered received, and any written reports are placed on file among the public records of the city clerk's office. Moved by Councillor Gibbs and second by Councillor Armstrong. Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? No correspondences or recommendations from boards at this time. Please continue.
Resolved that the bills honored by the common council for the week ending June 7th, 2019 in the amount of $503,124.61 are authorized and allowed, and the mayor and the city clerk are hereby authorized and directed to sign warrants drawn on the city chamberlain for the payment thereof.
Moved by Councillor Moore, second by Councillor Gibbs. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed. There's only 2 items on the agenda today, a travel request and appointments to our Sustainable Task Force Committee. Is there any individuals in the public who would like to speak on one of those 2 agenda items? There will be another public comment period momentarily. Seeing none, let's continue, please.
Resolved that in accordance with the request, therefore the common council approves the following appointments to the Climate Smart Community Coalition Sustainability Task Force. Council Rochelle Armstrong, Coordinator; Joel Chase, MLB; James Welch, Building Inspector's Office; Ethan Vinson, Community Development; Scott Buffett, College and Industry; Lisa Bergman, Climate Smart Coalition; Roger Ritzeman, Nonprofit.
Moved by Councillor Ansel, second by Councillor Armstrong. Discussion? I'll note, if you're not familiar with Scott Buffett, he's actually runs the wind and solar program at Clinton Community College. I think you're familiar with all the various other names here. Any further discussion? Roll call?
Councilor Armstrong?
Yes.
Councilor Kelly?
Yes.
Councilor Gibbs?
Yes.
Councilor Ansel?
Yes.
Councilor McFarland?
Yes.
Councilor Moore?
Yes.
Resolved in accordance with the request, therefore the common council approves a police department employee to attend police mental health new instructor training from June 17th through 19th, 2019 in Rochester, New York. The total cost will not exceed $658.75 and will be expensed out of the asset forfeiture fund.
Moved by Councillor Armstrong, second by Councillor Gibbs. Discussion? Already discussed in committee. Roll call?
Councilor Armstrong?
Yes.
Councilor Kelly?
Yes.
Councilor Gibbs?
Yes.
Councilor Ansel?
Yes.
Councilor McFarland?
Yes.
Councilor Moore?
Yes.
Are there any resolutions for initial consideration? Any new business or additional council reports?
Yes, I would like to request a meeting with either or both Mike Bissett and Mike Brody concerning some outstanding concerns about construction on Main Road. I've heard from a number of constituents who have lingering issues, and I would just, I know that I had brought this up before, and there was the expectation that these concerns would be relayed to the the contractor who's in charge of finishing up the project. I just wanted to be able to ascertain the status of all of that information and how it's being delivered to the contractor, And I would also like there to be an opportunity for the constituents who's reached out to me to be at this meeting.
We see what we can try to put together for that
Okay,
in consultation with Mr. Brody.
thank you.
Well, next week is infrastructure, right? So,
Might make sense to have them come and brief you all then too. And
Alright.
constituents could come if they wish, we might encourage them to come
Yeah,
to that.
I anticipate that there is some interest, and, you know, if this has already transpired, please let me know and I'll back off from this. But, there, you know, I know that I met with a particular constituent who had outlined in quite a number of details, the deficiencies, the problem areas, and, you know, so that kind of on-site tour may, be helpful. So we'll work that out.
Okay. Any other new business and council reports? Councilor Moore?
Yeah, just wanted to mention that we had a meeting of the Livable Community Advisory Committee this past week. It was very enlightening. We got a lot of information from building inspector, and everybody was very pleased to find out exactly how the complaint system works. And Councilor Ensel and myself are very pleased to learn a lot of things about how that works also. So I'm very pleased with how it's been going. I think we're gonna make some headway in making the community better.
I think that in the not too distant future that we may have something coming before the council that we'll have to vote on as far as recommendation and some action that comes out of this committee.
Great.
Yeah, we'll have a final presentation to the council,
That's
the conclusion.
Good work. And do you mind if I bring up, I would like an update about how we're doing with, I know you did it recently, but were there any new developments regarding contracting with another IT company?
The RFP?
Right.
Well, I promised myself that this week I would sit down and write something, so
Okay.
I've got one more day to do it. So I'm gonna try to meet my own self-imposed deadline.
Right. Well, I mean, and that might qualify as a form of infrastructure, right? Maybe it could be delivered at next week's infrastructure meeting,
Sure.
right?
Sure.
We give you 7 more days, Mike.
And to follow up on that, next Tuesday is our next parking committee meeting. I invite as all counselors to come. I think if you've been following, the parking committee has only made one recommendation to the city council, and it was at our first appearance, or as at our first meeting in January, where we made the recommendation that the council asked the state for approval for residential permitting. Nothing has been passed up since then. We're hoping to change that starting next week. In the last few weeks, Ethan and I have been collaborating on drafting a parking plan. Right now it stands at about 24 pages long, and hopefully to try to kick off more in-depth discussion on certain specific items, and we hope to have some actionable items that will actually be sent up to the city council at the next meeting. It'll be the first meeting since the second meeting where I will actually be there for the whole thing, hopefully. So it should be a pretty exciting parking meeting. I will say that it does put forth the one thing we are hoping to have sent up to the council is by next week is the parking committee's recommendations on what specific actions we should take as far as replacement parking. Right now, there's several options going. Some change streets. Certainly, I've been very vocal that I don't want to change any streets. I know certain councilors have their own opinions on that, such as making Durkee one-way, as was presented in the art of the new Prime proposal, or keeping it 2 ways. There's the Brinkerhoff, there's Court Street. So hopefully, we will have the recommendations from the parking committee to send forth to the council after next week on those. The hope is that the parking committee can also make any recommendations changes or get any feedback we can on the parking plan in general. And then the hope then is our next meeting on July 9th, we can, after we make all those changes, we can have a hopefully finished parking plan that could be approved by the parking committee to send forth to the council for action then. And that could constitute our semi-annual report that's required by the committee's rules to the council. So there's been a lot of discussion in the parking committee. So hopefully now we'll start getting more action and start getting more recommendations coming up to the council from the parking
I
committee.
just wondered if there'd been a replacement found for the business representative?
Still searching. I have a couple of people who are supposed to get back to me soon, so.
Okay.
That's
I
part of the
have a
infrastructure.
recommendation if those don't pan out.
So yeah,
I think-
that's, you can bring that up to Jeff and
Okay.
Elizabeth there in the infrastructure committee meeting. And I would also ask the public, last time before the parking committee meeting, I brought forth to the public that any questions if they had, please show up and ask them. No one did show up, so maybe this next one I will also be answering any questions anyone has regarding parking. And hopefully it'll be a robust parking committee meeting.
Tuesday, the 11th, right?
Yes, at 6 o'clock, and we also do have, Ethan's been working diligently on making new graphs. I could even show them to you now, but I don't think we can
It's
see
okay,
them
let's
at
have
the
an early meeting tonight.
next committee meeting. So we have a lot of updates on that, new data, and so it should be interesting.
I forgot that I was going to repeat my request that I be put in touch with Eva and Ethan as a kind of follow-up conversation about the Climate Smart Communities grant webinar that we all watched today. And because I have some ideas for how we might begin the grant-seeking process for Climate Smart Communities, and I just wanted to run it by them.
Could you help facilitate that? Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Rochelle, did you want to mention Saturday?
Oh, yeah, why don't you mention it?
It's your project.
Oh, well, okay. So we had Dale Dowdle, Peter Insel, my husband, a rototiller, and myself out at the roundabout last Saturday. And that was quite a daunting task to dig up about 4 or 5 foot ring around the central part, which was really full of weeds. But gosh, amazing work done. And I'm gonna thank the DPW, please relay our thanks for picking up our bags, they were quite heavy. A lot of sod that, we couldn't even pick up the bags, so, nor did we have the vehicles to take them in. So, the planting is going to take place this Saturday, between 9 and 12. And we're pulling together some kinds of plans for plants, perennials, and maybe some wildflowers. So if you feel like you'd like to contribute, there's an event page that I'm putting on Facebook or have on Facebook already. And hopefully we'll have a good crew and it won't take much time at all. And then later, we'll need people to volunteer for maintenance because, we'll need probably, if there are dry spells, watering and weeding.
And immediately following after that is Hunger Games out at the Oval, just up the street, with
Mhm.
music and food and all
That's
kinds of
great.
great entertainment.
That's great.
Any other new business or additional council reports? Seeing none, this is now an opportunity for members of the public to please come forward and discuss anything of mutual interest.
Hi, my name's Ernie Gillespie. I live at 89 Main Mill Street. Of course, we all know there's a lot of truck traffic there. One of my concerns is the safety. And another concern is there's just a small section of that street, and I know the city's tight on money. If anything that can be done for those bumps and potholes, anything would help. My next thing is, I think would also help, and it'd be a safety factor, would be from the intersection of Wall Street and Main Mill going west on Main Mill, reduce speed limit to 15 miles an hour for all commercial vehicles. There's a lot of hidden driveways there, and I just feel it'd be a, it covers a lot of things. You got the trailer park for a lot of kids. So just to slow things down would help tremendously. If that's possible at all, I'd appreciate that. I guess the only other thing, and I know I talked with you about the camera by the substation, because there's a lot of activity that goes behind there. And it'd surprise everybody that, what they'd see back there probably. I think, plus it'd be a safety for the substation at the end of Main Mill Street. It would cover the substation itself. You never know what idiot wants to do something, nowadays. Well, anyway, that's what I'm asking for. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, and I did have MLD Department Head Tracy go out there to take a look at that. I believe residents down there have been finding hypodermic needles and all this sort of stuff. It's becoming quite a partying spot, and it's dangerous to have that mixing with high voltage electricity late at night too, so it's
And
a
children.
concern we share. And I do know we've had a number of concerns about heavy equipment or heavy vehicles going up and down. It's only about a 2-block stretch where you're describing.
Actually, the section of the road that I'm describing, I mean, the whole street doesn't need to be done. It's just a small, maybe 30-yard section, and like I say, anything that could, help. I know the reduction in speed helps because when you get a new tractor trailer driver coming down, and he doesn't know where to go, you don't feel the tremors of the trucks. And another issue with that is, it's not like a normal vehicle. You got 5 axles on these trucks, and there's an average of 30, 40 tractor trailers a day going through there. They go in and they come out, so that makes it, I'll use the lower number, 60. Multiply that by 5, there's a lot of tremors going on. Anything that could be done would be appreciated.
Thank you. Any other individuals like to please come and address the council? Seeing none, do I have a motion to adjourn? Moved by Councillor Gibbs, second by Councillor Ansel. Roll call?
Counselor Armstrong?
Yes.
Counselor Kelly?
Yes.
Counselor Gibbs?
Yes.
Counselor Ansel?
Yes.
Counselor McFarland?
Yes.
Counselor Moore?
Yes.
Thank you, everybody. Go enjoy the beautiful day. Summer's
Yes,
here.
it is. Oh, early for a change.
Put together a bathroom.